This is the most recognizable face in human history. Billions of people know this man instantly. Stockbrokers, tribesmen in Papua New Guinea, your grandma. Of course he is Jesus Christ. But here is an unbelievable fact. This face, completely made up. We're 2,000 years separated from this guy. That's 100 generations playing telephone with, yeah, he had like hair and stuff. So how did we land on this specific bearded white guy? And more importantly, did he actually look like this? Let's find out. The Bible says nothing. The New Testament, the book that documents what Jesus ate, every parable he told every time he stubbed his toe, says exactly nothing about what he looked like. Not his hair, not his height, not his face. There's one vague Old Testament line about the Messiah having no beauty or majesty, which some people interpret as maybe he was ugly. That's it. That's all you get. The original Christians didn't think his face mattered. They were too busy getting persecuted to commission portraits. Plus, they followed that whole no graven images commandment. Jesus himself was included in that rule. So for decades after his death, nobody drew this guy. Except for one person. You see, basically, the first image of Jesus was a troll post. The earliest surviving depiction of Jesus was ancient Roman graffiti. I'm not kidding. The Alexamenos graffito, some Roman carved a crude image of a guy worshipping a crucified figure, except the figure has a donkey head. The inscription says, Alexamenos worships his god. This is the ancient equivalent of drawing your friend as a soy jack. This anonymous Roman was calling Jesus a jackass, literally, and mocking his friend for worshipping a crucified god. The idea that a god would die like a common criminal was hilarious to Romans. And if scholars are right about the dating, this donkey-headed Christ is potentially the oldest image of Jesus that survived. So Jesus' first portrait was someone calling him an ass. You can't make this up. And by the 200s AD, Christianity spread and new converts needed something to visualize. They started tentatively, using symbols instead of direct depictions. The most popular was the Good Shepherd, a young, beardless dude in a Greek tunic carrying a lamb. Plot twist. Greeks were already drawing this for thousands of years. The Cryophoros, the ram bearer, a pious guy carrying an animal to sacrifice. Christians just stole it and went, no, he's saving the lamb, not sacrificing it. Genius, honestly. They could practice their illegal religion hiding in plain sight. To Romans, it looked like normal pagan stuff. To insiders, it was coded. Eventually, this symbolic Jesus became a literal Jesus. Christians started believing he actually looked like this, young, beardless, Greek as well Greek. And this wasn't the only depiction. Every region made him look like themselves. Once Christianity became socially acceptable, wealthy converts commissioned actual gospel scenes. There's this painting from Dura Europos in 232 AD showing Jesus healing a paralytic. He's gaunt, clean-shaven, short-haired. I call him office worker Jesus because he looks like some accountant named Derek. Then you've got Roman scholar Jesus, seated, authoritative, holding a papyrus scroll, wearing a toga. His disciples surround him like students. The whole composition is borrowed from Greek philosophers, Socrates, Plato, those guys. He's even got Alexander the Great's curly mane. The toga is the wildest part. Jesus wasn't a Roman citizen. He was Jewish, from a colonized territory, legally barred from wearing one. The Romans crucified this man as a criminal, but the artist put him in a toga anyway. It's a statement. Jesus wasn't some foreign revolutionary. He was one of us. He was Roman. Worshipping him is fine. Don't worry about it. Christianity went mainstream, making itself palatable to the people who killed him. There's even a mosaic from beneath St. Peter's Basilica showing Jesus as Sol Invictus, the beautiful Roman sun god on his flaming chariot. For centuries, 200s to 400s AD, Jesus looked like whatever the artist wanted. Short hair or long, poor or rich, shepherd or scholar, Greek or Roman. No consensus. But every single depiction agreed on one thing: no beard, Jesus was clean-shaven. Even when they gave Paul his characteristic beard and receding hairline, Jesus stayed smooth-faced. Why? Because in the Roman Empire, beards were kind of weird. Most emperors before Hadrian were clean-shaven. Facial hair was for barbarians, Gauls, Persians, enemies of Rome. To a Roman, a beardless Jesus just felt normal. It would be like showing up to a board meeting dressed as Gandalf. If you showed a 3rd century Christian a modern image of bearded Jesus, they wouldn't recognize him. They'd probably think it was Paul. Then everything changed. For 300 years, every image of Jesus was clean-shaven. Paul had a beard. The apostles had beards. But Jesus, smooth as hell. Then around 300 AD, some anonymous artist, we don't know who, don't know where, just added a beard. And that single decision is why your grandma has that specific image in her kitchen right now. It wasn't exactly revolutionary. All the famous Greek philosophers had beards. Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, fabulous beards, every one. In the ancient world, wearing a beard signified you were into philosophy. Marcus Aurelius grew his to show he was into Stoicism. It was a fashion statement, like long hair on hippies in the 60s. A bearded Jesus linked him visually to these wise teachers. In the artist's mind, Jesus was a philosopher like Socrates, so he should look the part. Simple as that. This bearded version resonated. It spread gradually over centuries, becoming standard in Eastern Christianity, Greece, Anatolia, probably because Greeks loved their hairy philosophers. The beardless version hung around in Western Europe into the Middle Ages. Michelangelo even tried to bring it back to the Sistine Chapel. But the bearded Jesus won, and when Catholic missionaries sailed on Spanish and Portuguese ships during the Age of Exploration, they brought this specific face, the beard, the long hair, no alternatives, to the entire world. So the million-dollar question: what did he actually look like? Well, we'll never know. No one described him or drew him while he was alive, but we can guess. Paul, writing a few decades after Jesus died, asks, "Does not nature itself teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a disgrace to him?" Jews at the time thought long hair was for women. Jesus probably conformed to this standard. He probably had short hair, but he probably did have a beard. Not the philosopher beard, but a short, trimmed Jewish beard. Historical artwork shows Jews preferred beards, usually worn like a chin strap with little to no mustache. So if Jesus followed Jewish standards, he might have looked something like the Dura Europos drawing, an ordinary, unremarkable guy who could blend into a crowd. Maybe the Bible was right when it said the Messiah would have nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. The most recognizable face in human history probably belonged to someone who looked like nobody special. Genesis says, God made us in his image. But for 2,000 years, we've been returning the favor, making Jesus in ours. Romans made him Roman. Greeks made him a philosopher. Europeans made him white. Everyone who's ever looked at that face has been looking in a mirror. And that's how Jesus got a beard.